You're listening to All Hands on Tech. Come along as we get to know the people and businesses behind the province's ever-expanding tech sector.
Each episode, we'll chat with local experts to uncover the hidden gems that make Nova Scotia a hub for collaboration, innovation, and creativity.
All Hands on Tech is proudly produced by Digital Nova Scotia, the industry association for Nova Scotia's growing tech sector. Hey, welcome back to All Hands on Tech. I'm Eilish.
And I'm Greg, and today we've got a conversation all about the importance of representation and diversity in Nova Scotia's tech sector.
We certainly do. Turtle Island Technology Solutions is a fully owned Indigenous Cree business located on the Millbrook First Nation here in Nova Scotia and is a certified diverse Indigenous supplier, and we're going to find out exactly what that means in just a moment.
They bring more than 2 decades of IT industry experience, and they're also working to bring more Indigenous representation to the tech table.
All right, so joining us now for that very important conversation is Turtle Island Technology Solutions founder and CEO, Michael Hebert. Michael, thanks so much for being here with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. We're excited too. I think this is going to be a really great conversation, but before we actually get into it, we want to get to know you a little bit. So we've got some icebreaker questions. Are you good for that?
All right, I'm in.
Okay, Greg, you kick us off.
All right, so outside of work, what are you passionate about?
Hockey. 110%. If I'm not talking about it, I'm playing it.
Okay, what do you play? What position?
Really, I play all positions, but mostly on defense, yeah.
Nice. I'm a goalie, so I guess we could be best friends.
Okay.
Okay. I was always put in net. My brother, my dad, whole family grew up playing hockey. I was always put in net.
Oh, that's right.
I didn't love it, but that's okay. Okay, so where is your favorite place to eat? Now, you live here in Halifax, but of course the office on the First Nation, Millbrook. Do you have, like a go-to for both locations, or is the favorite spot number one and that's it?
Yeah, I haven't been out in the Millbrook way long enough to have a favorite spot, but I've been to a few. There's Thai Silas, I think it's called, which is a great Thai restaurant in Truro that I really love. And then here, it's just outside the studios here, May Garden. Is a great little Chinese restaurant, and their Casino Nova Scotia location is probably the best one.
That one has robots, I think, that deliver your food.
They do, yeah.
That's incredible.
So
Why have I not heard of it? I
Yeah.
love dumplings and robots.
Yeah.
I feel like this is where my dreams can come true.
I love it. A crossing of paths that you never knew you needed.
Absolutely.
Okay, last one. What is a piece of advice that you wish you had have known earlier in your career?
Yeah, that one's easy. I would say if you have entrepreneurial spirit, do it early.
So just get started sooner.
Yeah, just do it. Fail a bit while you don't have responsibilities, and make that happen.
Love that. Okay, thank you for that. We're going to jump on into it now.
Absolutely. So let's learn a little bit more about your business, and let's start with what's in a name, because the name Turtle Island Technology Solutions itself is a big piece of that representation factor that we've mentioned. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it was a bit of a journey to find a name that was meaningful. I wanted one that was Indigenous and clearly identified us as Indigenous. My Cree name is Ogimawatik, and that was originally what I had thought I would use, but nobody can spell it, and so I envisioned this. Calling people up and them trying to email me back and not knowing how to spell it, and maybe not emailing back at all. So Turtle Island is the creation story for North America. It's a wonderful story, and it's one that most Indigenous people share, whether you're Mi'kmaq or Cree or Ojibwa. We all consider Turtle Island as North America. And if you have a chance, please read it. It's a fantastic story and great background of the culture.
Yeah, It definitely is beautiful. With all of that in mind, what do you guys actually offer at Turtle Island Solutions? Yeah,
we're a fully equipped technology provider in terms of reseller and systems integrator and consulting. We've got a number of resources coast to coast that offer everything from typical break fix to more complicated projects to consulting engagements, whether it's industry specific or has something to do with maybe acquisitions or anything technology related on this in that realm. We on the other side of it, we do all the commodities that you would typically find in any enterprise business, the foundations of most businesses, whether it's laptops or for that matter, microphones or communications equipment. We can do all of that. And we do this across 5 pillars. Compliance is number one. It's important for our clients to be compliant as they go about their business. And then we do it in data center and networking, cloud, which is, of course, very relevant today. Mm-hmm. And then I mentioned networking already, data center and cloud, and then networking. And we also do cybersecurity. So we do most of the different areas that everybody would fall into today, including end user computing.
Cool.
Excellent. So, for our listeners out there, you guys are a certified diverse supplier. So can you tell us a little bit about what that actually means?
Yeah. So my background, my history is Cree. I'm Cree from Western Canada. I do find myself now in Eastern Canada in Mi'kma'ki, and I make my home, my business home at the Millbrook First Nation. I am the founder, as you mentioned, and CEO of Turtle Island Technology Solutions, which I've used to get certified as an Indigenous business with the Canadian Council of Aboriginal Business.
So what does that actually mean? What kind of qualifications, certifications are necessary to be identified within that council?
It's just majority ownership
Okay.
as from an Indigenous person. You don't outside of that, you don't need any additional. You just you have to prove, obviously, that you have an Indigenous background. It's not uncommon today to find people that will pretend Indigenous background, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So CCAB is a wonderful organization. They do the necessary background checks, and they do so much more, but they provide certification for Aboriginal businesses.
Why is that so important to you as an Indigenous man yourself?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have enough time, but I could tell.
Fair enough.
I can tell you in 25 years of being in this industry, I've never once worked with an Indigenous person.
Never.
Never.
Wow.
No, and so they exist. I can tell you they exist. I know they exist. I've met many since I've undergone this endeavor. But it was important to me once I realized that there was an opportunity in the market to maybe help the community, help myself, help my family, and do something. And so, part of the DNA of Turtle Island Technology is to give back, and so it's all relevant. It's all very important. I think through the course of our conversation today, we'll talk about some of the gaps that exist with Indigenous people and the technology sector.
Well, and I think that probably leads us perfectly to that next question.
Absolutely. So, in terms of some of the barriers that you face as an Indigenous man yourself trying to make it in the tech sector, can you talk a little bit about what some of those have been, maybe in the past, and then, how that may have changed now?
Yeah, I think, it's important to understand, where each generation has come from, right? And so as an Indigenous person and somebody who, is passionate about that and passionate about my culture, I wouldn't say that I've had really any barriers for myself, mm-hmm. but the barriers are, typical of most people in my generation. My mother was... put through some schooling, and she had years of torment in that in different facilities, and so I love my mother. She's passed, but she had problems that stemmed from that.
When you say schooling, residential schooling?
Yeah,
okay, I
day
just wanted
school,
to clear.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm so sorry, first of all.
Yeah. I mean, but the reality is that I as I go about my day and I talk to a lot of people in my industry, none of them had that background, right? Like, I mean, you don't typically find other people whose parents had gone to residential school. They haven't dealt with the challenges of having a parent that went through that. My mother had years of addiction and alcohol abuse. When she passed away, she was thankfully sober, but that continues on. I myself am 17 years sober, and thank
Yes.
you. And that's all part of it. It's all part of this generational problem that we have, and so I wouldn't say people were welcoming to me as an Indigenous person. I have the benefit of in some ways that. Because there are obviously visible Indigenous people. I think that I find if I'm on my First Nation, they know right away. Whereas if I'm out and walking through the community, people say, "Oh, you're Indigenous," so I kind of blend in wherever I'm at. So I don't have those visibility challenges that even my mother at one point. Was unable to find a home for rent because she was visibly Indigenous, and there was enough information at that time to know that was the reason. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like you say, just because you yourself haven't experienced those specific, barriers doesn't mean that her barriers haven't, impacted your growth and, your upbringing and everything, of course, too. So thank you very much for sharing and feeling comfortable enough to share all of that with us.
Thank you.
Very much appreciate that. I guess then, with all of that in mind and knowing some of the barriers that other, Indigenous individuals who are hoping to get into the tech sector are, maybe facing themselves, how exactly do you operate then to be a more, inclusive space and supplier and company?
Yeah, I think this is important, not just for folks that in the technology sector, but for anyone in other Indigenous businesses. Otherwise, I think that one of the first things I did when I built Turtle Island Technology Solutions was decide on my own supplier diversity plan. And I thought, if I'm going to go out there and take advantage of those opportunities, other people should be able to take advantage of them as they relate to my business. And I think we still have a long ways to go as Indigenous businesses. I still run into, I'd say the majority of Indigenous businesses I run into don't have their own supplier diversity plan. And I think that's, vital and important. But what I suggest is that, as an Indigenous technology provider, that, I am out there and talking to people about it and having them realize, more importantly, youth realize that there is an opportunity in technology for our Indigenous youth. And, there's right now, if when people talk Indigenous relations, it's not uncommon that just means skilled tradespeople or skilled laborers,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And so the technology side is a huge gap.
Interesting.
And so I would love for more Indigenous people to realize that there is an opportunity for them. And it's a big gap in our communities. Obviously, we need to be able to, the whole idea around Digital Nova Scotia is promoting technology. And if Indigenous people aren't skilled in that sector, then we won't have our seat at the table as well.
Okay.
Right.
You're jumping ahead on questions here for us. We're going to ask you later what Digital Nova Scotia can do to try and help, push this conversation forward. So we'll get there in just a minute. But,
Absolutely. So, with regards to your company, can you we'll sort of step back a little bit.
Yeah.
So tell us, how many people do you have on your team? How do people go about accessing your services?
Yeah, so the main part of our team is quite small. It's there are 4 of us today, and most of what we do is around account management. But we have a large contractor base of about 150 resumes coast to coast in order to fill the professional services and consulting engagements that we do, and that's just from a network of 20 plus years. If people want to reach out, obviously turtleislandtech.ca is our website. You can contact us through there. I'm not hard to find. Michael Hebert, on LinkedIn, there's not many of us. We're happy to help anybody, and from small to large enterprise clients. In fact, some of our clients are in the larger sector outside of Nova Scotia. So.
Okay.
Excellent.
We already mentioned it when we asked about your restaurant preferences, but we said that you live here in the Halifax side of things, but of course the office is located in Millbrook. Why there? Because initially not from the East Coast.
That's right.
Yeah. So what made you connect to that area?
Yeah, I'm not from here. I've been here. It'll be 4 years in November. And first, I'd love to say I absolutely love Nova Scotia.
Oh, happy to hear it.
Yeah, it was quickly home. The people are amazing. All across the province. One of the things that really stuck with me as I met Mi'kmaq people was the similarities between Mi'kmaq and Cree.
Really?
Although on one side, the Cree grew up in the plains, and the Mi'kmaq grew up near the ocean and fished and did a lot of different things. So you would think maybe there'd be some large cultural differences. Obviously, the language is different, but at the end of the day, there's more similarities than there are differences. And I can tell you, it's 5,000 kilometers door to door from Saddle Lake, which is where I would be from, and to Millbrook. And so to understand and see that the cultural similarities are there is fantastic. And so I do feel a little bit of a sense of belonging when I go there.
Nice.
And the people there are just as welcoming as anyone else in Nova Scotia. In fact, if you go through Millbrook and you stop at the Cultural Center, they'd be happy to have you there, I'm sure, and they're great people. But it was important for me to be, at the base of what I'm trying to achieve, which is if I want to give back to the community, I need to be a part of the community. And so that's very important.
I feel like that kind of idea is very prominent in Indigenous culture, just from my understanding of it anyway. Just that, giving back and feeling like a community seems like a very big deal.
Yeah, I would say that it is. I mean, it's I think like one of the things that we've kind of alluded to, which is that the Indigenous youth don't understand technology is maybe a route for them, and so, I could do this from my home in Halifax or an office in Halifax, but I wouldn't be visible, right? And so, I know that you can find me at the Confederacy office in Millbrook. I know that if people come by or they talk and they say, who's Turtle Island Technology? Well, we can talk about that. We can have those discussions. Just today, I had a great discussion with a policy worker with the Confederacy of Mainland Mi'kmaq about some of the discussions I've recently had about how to encourage Indigenous representation in IT. And he was unaware there was a gap, but there's a large gap. And so those kind of conversations can happen from my house in Halifax.
Well, that does kind of get into the next question that we had, which is, obviously we've talked about the fact that there's a gap in the Nova Scotia tech sector when it comes to representation. So I know that conversation sort of leads into this question of sort of what do you see as sort of next steps in order to change that for the better?
Yeah. I've only been a member of Digital Nova Scotia less than a year. But thankfully, I've been a member of the month. I've been here, on your show, and I've been part of the Halifax Chamber of Commerce. I just recently joined the Truro and Colchester Chamber.
Okay.
It's incumbent on me, if I want to take advantage of supplier diversity, that I am part of the solution, that I don't, pocket just commercially from this, that I go and I, encourage others to do what I do. It's important for me to have those conversations like I had today in Millbrook. But I think for everybody is just to be aware that, we have a group of Indigenous people out there that are ready and willing to do new things, and that part of what we can do is help sort of fill that gap. And just if you have really what I would say is, if you're doing supplier diversity programs today or Indigenous reconciliation efforts, is that you consider other things other than skilled labor and skilled tradespeople, right? In fact, it doesn't have to be tech. It can just be anything else, right? It's like, we put everybody into one bucket and say, that's the Indigenous bucket right there. But the reality is we need the community to have all sorts of different skills and capabilities, and that's how they will grow and thrive in these different communities.
You see, like a great example of that. Prior to my time here at DNS, I was at Clearwater, which, as you know, has been their ownership is now 50% Indigenous owned, and just the changes that are happening at a organizational level and cultural level, to be able to say, okay, we need to be able to find ways to build out our workforce, but in a more inclusive manner, in a way that gives opportunities in some of these, more remote areas or remote work to be able to bring people into the fold. It's just great to see that there seems to be more of a movement starting to happen in some ways. Whether it's through ownership of businesses or just, appealing to more folks to be able to get involved in businesses in some way, and having the ability to bring people in and help them on their journey of employment, to be able to say, you might not have all of the skills for this, but let's figure this out and learn. And I think that's such an important thing too, as you look ahead.
Yeah, I mean, like you said about, that giving them the skills. I think a lot of times those skills are probably already there. They might need a little bit of a building, to them. But I think they're there. We just need to give the right people the opportunity to showcase them is really the challenge, I think, that we all need to step up to, really.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more. It's just about, like, everybody understanding that it's everyone's role, right? And it doesn't need to necessarily just stop at being Indigenous people. Like, it should be diversity across everything.
Yes.
There's so much out there to prove that diversity, whether it's in your supply or your procurement, really matters. And in fact, organizations with diversity plans and diversity initiatives and reconciliation efforts, they perform better.
Yeah.
Right. So, if that's important to you, which I know it is, then get on that, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, so you have been a very busy gentleman, even just today. You were in Fredericton earlier today. You made the drive back to Dartmouth for us to sit down and have this conversation. But what were you up to in New Brunswick?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I went to Fredericton for one purpose, and that was partnership discussions with other organizations in the tech community. As an Indigenous business, we're a small business. We don't have big background behind us in terms of the financial capabilities and everything that some organizations have. And so there are things in place that can help us out through joint ventures and otherwise. And so that's one of the reasons I was in Fredericton. But while I was there, I I also met with a Fredericton success story, Plato Technologies. And I bring them up because I think they are a fascinating example of a group of people that have done just unbelievable things with Indigenous representation and technology. Now, the fellow that started Plato Technologies is not Indigenous.
Okay.
So I don't know how this came about or how it ended up, but they are now, my understanding, is owned majority by a Indigenous investment firm, and they basically upskill Indigenous people in technology. They start them in software testing, and they go through a training process, and then they hire them. And
Cool.
I think, and I have got nothing to prove this, but I think they're the largest Indigenous employer of technology today.
Wow.
Cool.
Now, the sad part, and I mentioned it earlier off the podcast, is that that's at about 30 to 35 resources, I think. So, you know, a small amount of, you know, what does the digital economy employ in Nova Scotia?
Probably around 50,000 or so.
Yeah, I think
is
those are the last
where
numbers
we're
that we
at.
were looking
Yeah,
at.
so about
Yeah.
2,000 companies, yeah.
So my guess is it would be less than 1% would be Indigenous in Nova Scotia. Yeah.
Wow.
That's not enough. Plain and simple, that's not enough.
No.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Oh my. Well, I mean, hopefully conversations like this and the work that you're doing is, you know, going to change that moving forward. In an ideal world, you know, we're playing pretend here, but hopefully not for long. But what does growth look like to you? How do we go about achieving that?
Yeah, well, I mean, growth already has been pretty aggressive for us. You know, you can't do something for 20 some years and not have some relationships and clients that will follow you around. And so, you know, I've been lucky in that regard. But ideally, you know, what I want to do is build something that, you know, is a beacon of tech and can encourage technology in our Indigenous youth, have them understand that there's something outside of, you know, what they're doing today that can both be, you know, can you know, feed your family and do all of those great things. And also, you know, doesn't necessarily mean working 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off. And you could work from home if you wanted, or do different things. You know, when I started this, it occurred to me that there was a gap, and it was a big one. And there are Indigenous technology companies out there. There's not enough. I don't know of another one in Nova Scotia, to be fair, like that does specifically what I do. And I just think that now is a good time for change in that regard. And, you know, Digital Nova Scotia exists because technology is the new frontier. It's foundational to everything we do. You know, high-speed internet is now a basic human right, if that tells you anything. And the First Nations across Canada are well below the percentage of achieving high-speed internet. And so all of those things together are meaningful. You know, in terms of what I'm trying to do, one of the things that I do today is with every professional services statement of work that goes out the door, 1 hour is going into a bucket to help bring technology to a First Nation.
That's incredible.
Excellent.
And so as we build that up, hopefully we can do great things, right? Yeah.
That's
Incredible.
great.
Yeah.
That's great.
What a little nugget to leave to
I know,
closer to the
I
end.
know.
My goodness.
This guy's done this before.
I
for
know.
Sure. Well, you know, that's essentially all of our questions. You know, so right now we would say, you know, the floor is yours. Anything in particular you want to highlight? Anything exciting coming down the pipeline? If we're talking hot wings, this camera, what's going on?
Yeah, you know, I want to say first thank you. I mean, from the very moment that I became a member of Digital Nova Scotia, I could tell that there were a lot of great things happening. You know,
That's great to hear.
I'm obviously a big champion of diversity, not just Indigenous diversity and reconciliation, but supplier diversity in general. And I think that's going to lead to, you know, a stronger community, and everyone benefits, right? And I was comfortable joining Digital Nova Scotia because of that. Like I could sense that it wasn't necessarily Indigenous representation, but just wasn't a bunch of men standing around either,
Fair,
right?
fair.
You know,
Yeah.
you know, and frankly, I've been to a ton of tech conferences, and that's the majority of
Yeah.
of it. And so to see that there were a lot of women leading the charge and diverse people meant something to me. And everything that I do, whether it's in a partnership level or otherwise, has that at its root, right? Is that everybody has and shares the same values that I do. And if I can do that and build a home for my family and provide for them, then I've been successful, and that's the legacy I hope to leave. And I just at the end of the day, I think about my mother, and she would be very proud of this if we do something great with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
To see
I
that.
get goosebumps. That's
I know
beautiful.
that's you look at all the amazing work that you're doing, and especially being able to sit here and have you share your story, and we as an organization talk about diversity. We engage in any way that we can to walk that talk as well, and for others, for our listeners as well, to do the same. Encourage all of our members. We have events oftentimes. We hope to have you come out and to be able to learn more from you, and how others can play their part as well. So
well, it shows, and I wanted to let you know.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's great.
I mean, I just have to throw it kind of back to you, the thanks, because it's not your job to educate folks who are not Indigenous or not of a diverse background. So we recognize that, and so we also recognize just how important it is that you actually said yes to coming on and having this conversation. So we certainly appreciate your time and the wisdom that you've shared. And I think from the brief encounters we've had, I would have to say that your mom definitely is proud of what you're doing. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
There we go.
Well, thank you very much. That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
All right on.
Recorded by This Is Marketing, unblanding branding since 2015.